If the child wanted to leave an SMSF, all it is they'll roll out their balance. So just because there's one invested pool of funds that may be, say, for example, in shares, there's still up to 6 members that are separately accounted for on their statements. So if any one of those members wants to exit the fund at any point in time, it's a fairly routine process for them to exit. But I would say that, again, if they're up around the $2 million mark anyway, there's really no point in them going to a different fund because you're going to have the same problem as you approach the $3 million hard limit.
So what's the goal with crypto in an SMSF?
I've unfortunately got a number of clients who have put all of their super into crypto. But you can't be stopped. If you're a trustee, nobody can stop you from doing that. No one can stop you. It's not against the law to put all of your money into an artwork in some foreign art gallery. That is not illegal. You have to get valuation work done. You have to have, it's more expensive to comply because you've got to have actuarial certificates and various other things done. And also you have to be wary of, if you're going to do that into an illiquid asset, there are regulations that require the fund administrator to make sure that liquidity matches pension entitlement. So
what does liquidity mean as it relates to SMSF?
If you have members who are approaching 65 or even 60, because at 60 you can elect to transition, so you can go into various pension schemes by the time you're 60. As those members approach 60, you can't just have the fund sitting in one property, because the yield, there's not going to be enough liquidity to meet the minimum drawdown rules or the pension requirements. So that's another reason why, if you are doing land in super, you need to make sure that you have, in my opinion, you need to make sure that you have other liquid assets sitting to the side of that property on top of the property that's in there, because you can't sell one brick at a time. You have to make sure that your liquidity profile matches the maturity structure of your membership. Otherwise, it's your fault. And an auditor might not sign off on the accounts, even though they did the year before. So that has occurred. And the ATO will generally give you a year or two to fix it, but you don't want to anger ATO.
I think that's a separate.
That's a separate thing. That's not one of the top 5 things to consider. But you just definitely need to be aware of it. If you're managing your own fund, you need to understand what maturity structures are. And the way to get around it is just to buy bank shares, because they're always going to be there. They're always going to be paying a high yield. So you probably don't even need to sell anything to meet the minimum drawdown rules or the cash payment requirements. But if you do, you can hit sell at any point in time. And because the market is so deep, the secondary market for bank stock is so deep in this country, you're never going to have a problem. Just go online and just sell it. Whereas if you've got shares in a private company, if you've got artwork, if you've got crypto, if you've got land, you need to be very careful that you've run the book correctly based on the age of the members, because one of them can elect to switch to pension anytime as soon as they hit 60. And if you haven't advised the client that they've got to have enough cash in the bank to pay the pension and meet minimum drawdown, could be your fault.
So what are some of the things that accountants can and can't do as it relates to advising their clients?
But one of the things that we can't tell you to do is to buy or sell any specific investment. We can tell you that in 2 years' time, you're going to have a member who's 60, and that if they push the button and elect to transition, or elect, if they're 65, they elect to take the whole lot or to start taking a pension, you have to be able to liquidate in a way that leaves enough assets for the remaining members to continue. They might still be in accumulation for another 20 years if it's So very important to know that, and for us to advise, for the administrator to advise you of that. Otherwise, the auditor might not sign off the accounts. You might submit the accounts 1 year, and there's a 59-year-old auditor doesn't care. The next year, where's your advice to the client? They need to match their maturity structure. So I'm sure it happens all the time. I personally haven't seen it. It is a risk.
That's all we've got time for today. Please join us next time for the Solve to Evolve podcast. And in the meantime, if you want more information, please visit our website or email podcast@solveaccounting.com.au.